Hey everybody, it's Alison Heikkila. Thank you so much for joining me today on my YouTube channel. I am a part of the Autoimmune Awareness Hop for the second year in a row. This hop was created by my good friend Tara at Mayhem Crafty Cards, and I am excited to share a project with you today. So this hop is all about different autoimmune diseases, and each of the participants has chosen an autoimmune disease that they are going to chat about a little bit. And I would imagine that most of us have chosen to work with the colors that are associated with that autoimmune disease. So I decided to work with the color for celiac disease, which is green. For those of you that don't know, an autoimmune disease is when your body gets confused and attacks healthy cells. There are over 100 different types of autoimmune diseases. I decided, like I said, to focus on celiac disease, which is when your immune system reacts to gluten, which is found in rye, barley, and wheat. So eating things like crackers and bread, pizza crust, all of that stuff that I personally love so much, it can give you serious pain and bloating, and it can make you really sick for a long time. I was actually tested for celiac disease many years ago, and it was the worst month of my life because I couldn't have things like bread. And it made me very unhappy. Things like vitamins and lip balms, some makeup even has wheat and gluten in it. Rye, probably not so much, but I know that wheat is definitely something that can be found in those things, and that can also make you sick. Just getting lip balm on your lips is enough to get you pretty sick. So people that have celiac need to be really diligent in what they're putting on their body, putting in their body. And it's just awful. And my heart goes out to anybody that has to deal with any of the autoimmune diseases that we're going to be discussing in the hop today. So the awareness ribbon, like I mentioned before, for celiac disease is green. So I decided to go with sort of a greenish palette today. I'm going to throw in some blue. As you can tell, I am not doing a voiceover today because I felt like just chatting. Figured I'd talk about the process as I'm doing it. We're going to use some alcohol inks on the gel press along with this fantastic stencil. This is a 6x9 stencil from A Colorful Life Designs called Organic Doodles. I really love this one. So yeah, we're going to do a little bit of playing, and I don't have too much of a plan at the moment, to be honest with you. But that's kind of how I roll. So let's get started. I have my 6x6 gel press plate. I have Aquamarine, Mojito, and Everglades alcohol ink from Ranger. And I think that what I'm going to do is start with the Everglades here. Put a little bit on my gel press plate, just like this. And I think I want to go with the Aquamarine next. A little bit more. There we go. And now I'm going to take my teeny tiny little brayer, and I'm gonna roll it out, but not the way I always roll paint out. I want to kind of lift it and place it down again. I don't want to over blend. So I'm just gonna get that fairly well covered. Okay, roll this out here. I'm going to apply my stencil right on top. I don't really need to take a ghost print or a primary print. I don't really want to call it a ghost print. Use my brayer to push this down a little bit because this stuff dries really quick, and it's going to react with the next color that I put down. So taking a print now is just going to remove excess color, and I don't really want to do that at the moment. So I am going to take my Mojito. Might need to add another color too. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But there's going to be color trapped underneath that stencil. And as we go back over the negative space, the exposed areas, the Mojito is going to kind of dominate that area. And yeah, this is going to dye my stencil, but it doesn't bother me. You can clean it off if you want to with isopropyl alcohol, but it doesn't really matter to me if my stencil is dyed. It means that I've used it. So I'm just going to go over that a little bit. I think I might add a little bit more blue to this, just because I don't really know how much it's going to show underneath. What I might want to do is do a second one and just have Everglades underneath. and then that will be the dominant color where the stencil actually is. We'll see. Now, alcohol ink dries really quickly. Even when you're not using a gel press plate, it just dries quickly. That's one of the nice characteristics of it. But you do want to make sure that it's dried before you try pulling a print. So I'm going to lift this off. And it looks pretty dry. I put it on a large acrylic handle here. This is from Stampendous. It's a really big one. It's like a skinny acrylic block, and that looks pretty dry. I'm sorry about the glare, but I want to show you that this is looking pretty dry. Okay, so now I have just some white heavy body acrylic paint, and I'm going to use a different brayer that already has acrylic paint all over it, and we want to make this coat pretty thin. I might have put too much paint on here, but that's all right. We want it to be a pretty thin coat, and you don't want to let this coat dry. This is what we're going to use to pull the print. Yeah, this is a little thick, but hopefully we'll get a good print. Just going to brayer that excess off. And I'm grabbing a piece of just plain old copy paper. And we're going to press this down. Kind of want to rub this in really good. You can let this sit for a while if you want to. I'm usually pretty impatient and can't let it sit for too long. But if you find that you're trying to lift something and it's not really coming up, you can always just put it down again. Like, see, some of the ink is still here. So I'm going to just kind of rub it in a little bit more. Didn't really pull it up, but that's okay. We've got plenty of stuff going on here. Check that out. That is very nice. Should we make one more print? I think we'll make one more print. We're going to do one more. I think this time I'm going to go heavier with the Everglades color. And just use that for our bottom. That's going to be the color that is where the stencil is. Now there's going to be some color left on this brayer. I didn't clean it off, so it'll reactivate that color a bit, but because this Everglades color is so dark, you're really not going to see any significant changes in the color. Okay, I'm going to just roll this off a little bit. Okay, and now I'm going to put my stencil back down. And I think what I'll do is just brayer it a little bit just to make sure that it has good contact. There we go. That works. And now we're going to go in with that Mojito and the aquamarine. Whoops, lifted that up. So you got to be careful. You can even take, if you want a certain color in specific areas, you can even take a paintbrush and just kind of move that color around if you want to, like that, if you don't want to brayer it. You know, this would be cool if you were doing like a flower or something, if you wanted to paint a specific area a certain color with the alcohol ink. But for this, it doesn't really matter, but I wanted to show you that that is an option for you. I think I want to add a little bit more of that blue. Okay. And now I'm going to pull this off, and we're going to need to let that dry for a minute. Okay, this is all dry. One of the nice things about having it on a acrylic piece like this is that you can move it around. I actually picked the whole thing up and kind of waved it around so that I was able to get that alcohol ink to dry a little quicker. You want to make sure that you work in a ventilated area, like have an open window or a big room that you're working in when you're working with alcohol inks, because the smell can be very overwhelming. So you just want to use caution when you're working with them. So that is nice and rolled out. Let me get my piece of paper here, put this down, and we'll see what kind of print we get this time, and then we'll get to choose which one we're going to work with. A little bit more. And here is our second print. So let's compare. We've got two prints here. This one, you can definitely see that there's more of the Everglades in this one. This one's a little bit lighter. I am going to trim them down and decide which one we're going to work with. I've decided that I'm going to work with this lighter one today. I love this one, but I'm going to save it for another time. And I am going to just run this through my die cut machine. I'm going to just make a nice simple rectangle with it, and that is going to be our main focus on the card. So here's our piece die cut, and this rectangular die is from Elizabeth Craft Designs. And this is our card base. So I can tell you already that I am going to be painting that background, the base of the card. So I'm going to do that right now so that this way, while we're working on the rest of it, it's got some time to dry. I'm going to use this Nuvo Mica Mist. This is fresh pear, and it has this beautiful shimmer to it. So I'm going to just open this up. I've already given it a nice shake. Grab my paintbrush, and instead of spraying, I'm going to just paint this on. It's going to be really sheer, but it's going to have a lot of shimmer, and I can always give it a second coat if I really want to. This is a really great way to extend the use of your sprays. Sometimes you don't want to spray them, but you want that color. So using a brush to apply it to your card base is a great way to use them. And if you've watched me either in my lives or some of my other videos, you've probably seen me do this a lot. I actually do this a little bit more than I use it as an actual spray. Sometimes the sprays can be a little bit tricky, meaning like they spray in a pattern that you don't necessarily love. That's not what I'm saying about this particular one, just in general. Sometimes the spray pattern is a little wonky, and I have more control of it when I'm using a brush. And sometimes I like to just flick them too with the straw. Just kind of flick it all over the place, but in this case, using the brush is just what we needed. So I think that that looks pretty good already. It's really picking up the lighter shades that are in here. I think that looks really nice. Okay, moving on. I have this Hugs die. I love the sugar script dies. They're wonderful. This is the part of the Blueprint Craft Die collection. This is from Birch Press, and I have a number of these sugar script dies. I use them all the time, and I figure, you know, it's an autoimmune hop. We should be sending people some encouragements. So let's cut out our hugs. We're going to wind up using both layers, the main layer and the shadow die, just to kind of break it up a little bit in the background. And I'm going to pick out some paper. Okay, I cut my words out, and I've got this nice teal color, and guys, I busted out the old school basic gray paper for this. But when I put it on the card here, it's a little bit too light. So I'm going to zhuzh it up a little bit. I'm going to darken this. I know. I'm going to ink on top of my basic gray paper, but it'll be okay. I'm going to just add some Rustic Wilderness Distress ink on top. And it's just going to add a little bit more depth to it. I'm just tapping it. One of the things I really like about Distress ink pads is that the texture of the pad itself is fun to play with. You can see that I'm getting some really nice texture in here, and it works really well with the pattern of the paper itself. So I'm just deepening it a little bit with the Rustic Wilderness, and I think it's going to look a lot better. Yep. See how nice? Now it stands out more, but I do need to clean up this mess here. I changed my mind, you guys. I changed my mind. I decided that this is not working. It's just blending in too much. So I went with an ivory cardstock, and I think that that's much better. So we're going to go with that. I'm going to glue this down, and then we're going to see what we're going to do next. We're all ready to start gluing all of our layers together, but I decided that as I was taking a look at this, I needed a little something else. So I decided to pull out the You Are Loved messages from Hero Arts. I use this set all the time. It's one of my favorite sentiment sets, and I stamped out I've Always Got Your Back with VersaFine Clair and Twilight, and we're going to put that right over here. So let's glue this all together. I've got my Barely Arts glue. I'm just going to add a bit to this. Now this is copy paper again, that we did our gel press print on, so we don't need a whole lot of glue. And I'm going to just get this on here like this. Please make sure that you take a look at my description below the video so that you can check out all of the participating YouTubers that are a part of the Autoimmune Awareness Hop. There's a whole bunch of us, and I know that it's going to be a great hop. There's going to be so many awesome ideas that hopefully you can apply to your own crafting. So all of the information is going to be listed, including all of the products that I'm using. So be sure to take a look at that box. And I would appreciate it if you considered subscribing to my channel if you haven't done that already. Okay, almost done here. You know what we need now? Sparkle. I've got my cool Starburst Rhinestones from Doodles Paper Playground, and we are going to add a few sequins to this because gotta have some. Not sequins, rhinestones. Usually I'm doing sequins, but this time it's going to be rhinestones. So let's see. We're going to pop a couple of these guys over here, and it's going to be really subtle, but I'm okay with that. Sometimes subtle sparkle is all that you need. Put a few over here. Put a couple over here. If I can pick it up. I think that that's going to look good. So now I'm going to grab my pokey tool, and for this I like to use on-point glue. Whenever I'm doing rhinestones, or sequins for that matter, I like to use my on-point glue. And I hold my pokey tool and my glue in one hand, and then I use my jewel picker in the other, and it just makes it a little easier to get. Let me zoom in for you so that you can really see what I'm doing here. Okay. And then I hold it down with the pokey tool, and that makes it a lot easier. Sometimes these things are fiddly and they don't like to come off of whatever's holding them. So using the pokey tool to push it off of your jewel picker makes it much easier. That one released nicely. One more. Here we go. We have a fun gel press print with some old school basic gray paper, a little bit of shine, a lot of alcohol inks, and this card is pretty much done. Thank you so much for joining me today. Please be sure to go through the rest of the hop. I hope that you've learned a little something about autoimmune diseases and on mine, celiac disease. To those of you that are dealing with autoimmunes, my heart goes out to you. I understand how difficult these things can be. And just know that we've always got your back. So stay safe, be well, peace out.